Coach Kim, welcome. I'm so excited to have you today. I've been waiting to talk to you all day.
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome, awesome. So, we are here today to talk about our magazine. Coach Kim was one of the coaches who have contributed to this issue of about readiness and ending trying harder, right? Because it's
Yes,
exhausting to try harder and harder and harder. So
right.
we launched this February 15th, and she has an article, and I brought her today because I want her to talk about her article and share some things about her article and what she do and how she help people end their suffering and how she helps with coaching. So we're going to talk about all of that.
Great.
But before we get started, we always need to be here because if we're not here, we're somewhere else, right, Kim?
That is correct.
Yes. So I don't know about you. Many of us always think about the past, right? We go and visit our past frequently, sometimes more frequent than we want to, right?
Absolutely.
So if you're one of those people who keep going back to your past and being, thinking over and over again, it's like a loop that just plays and never stops. That old movie, right? Old chapter. If you keep reading it, you might want to just let it go because the only thing we can get from that is lessons, because if
Yes.
we keep playing it, we're just wasting our time in the past. Now and here is the only place we can do anything about it. So grab the lessons. I know it's hard. Just as many lessons as possible. And we're just going to let go of the past because holding on to the past does nothing. Correct, Kim?
It does not. It does not help you.
No, we
Take
all
those
tried,
lessons and let it go.
right? We all tried to hold on to it, but we got to let it go. Yes. And then we have the future, right? The other
Yeah.
side is the future. Now, some of us love to think about our future, which is great. But most of the time, when we think about it, believe it or not, I don't know about you, we tend to project our past onto it.
Future.
And
Yep.
then we then produce through that lens our future. And then when we do that, it ends up being full of fear, full of
Anxiety.
anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Because we already know it's not going to work because in the past it didn't work. So then if you project that, we're going to look at the future with those same lenses. We're going to say that's not going to work, it's not going to happen, it's going to go bad, that's going to happen again. So we're not really creating future, we're just recreating the past again over here thinking it's future, right? So it's also a lot of time wasted, a lot of time we're not being here and now. So what can we do about the future? We do need to think about the future, right? We all do, right?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
otherwise there's no planning, we don't have a destination to go to. But we can't spend all the time planning the destination and not taking steps either. Right? So we need to plan it, but the only thing we have to tell ourselves is that it's available to us, future is available. That's the only thing we know for sure. There's something available coming towards us, right? Something's going to happen. So we just need to release it, bless it and release it, so it's available to you, it's going to come. But spending so much time over there also makes you not be here and now. So when we're here and now, we can be present. We can do things, we can learn, we can live, we can lead ourselves and other people. But if we're in the past or in the future, really those hours are just spent away for nothing, usually. So we want you to come here. So how do you bring yourself here and now, Coach Kim?
I usually use breathing
Love it.
to bring myself back to present when I find myself either drilling, focusing on the past or spending too much time in my planning mode and thinking about the future and not actually taking steps. I find that taking a breath is what brings me back to the here and now so that I can take action steps in the only time we really have, which is now.
Yes, absolutely. So let's do that because we've been working all day, right? Some of you might have been working, some of you might have been, just driving home now. I don't know where you at, but we've been busy all morning. So we're coming to the end of the day, coming home to relax. So let's do that. So inhale for 4, hold for 4, and really feel that breath all over your body. Send it to places that you never sent before because we always forget to deep breathe, right? And then we're going to exhale for 8, letting go every stress, anything that you've been carrying in your shoulder, in your hands, in your arm, just let it go. Let's take an inhale for 4 again, through your nose. And then when you hold for that 4, imagine sending that air to all over your body where you forgot to send it to before. Just feel those places that you've never sent them. And then we're going to release it for 8. And this time I want you to make a noise and just let it go. Whoo, whatever noise you want to make, just let it go. Now, one last time, we're going to take a deep breath. Inhale for 4. Hold for 4. And we're going to exhale for 8 again. Releasing with the sound and letting go all the tension, pressure, anxiety, stress, worry, whatever you got, just let it go. Awesome. Yeah, in your neck, in your shoulders, right? We love to carry them everywhere. So
Love carrying it in my shoulder. Yep.
yes. Awesome. So those of you who are just joining us, this is all about our Learning, Living, and Leading magazine. We launch these every 2 months. We were at the beginning, it's almost 1.5 years since we launched these. Always it's full of our coaches' articles, so it's free. It's available under this video. You're going to find the link to access all of our issues from the past and this one as well. And when you go to access it, click the link and it'll ask for a password. The password is FLOW with capital letters, FLOW, and you have access for free. And it's got tons of wisdom from all of our coaches, and especially this one we're going to talk about is from Coach Kim. So you contributed an article to this magazine when I asked, it's going to be about Readiness OS and for, really stopping trying harder. Are you exhausted trying harder in life?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, the article that I wrote was all about like my last year working full time as a public school administrator. And that was the expectation, right? Like I, as a supervisor, expected my staff to try harder, to work harder. I expected the students to work harder. I expected myself to work and try harder. But if you're not in the right space, all of the trying in the world isn't going to get you where you need to be. If you're not trying hard at the right things, or if you're trying hard, but you don't have the conditions to be in a safe space, it's not going to happen for you.
Yes, absolutely. So take us back to that. In the article, you talked about the CSE table.
CSE meetings,
yes.
Yes. The director of student
what does it stand for, CSE?
Committee on Special Education.
Perfect. Okay, so what did your body notice before your mind had language for it when you were at that table?
Yeah, so, I was in charge of the entire program for the district, the special education program. And so, my job was compliance and regulation and making sure everything was being run properly. And we were meeting timelines and we were doing all of the right things, right? And because the assumption in the system is that when you do that, you have the right plan for a child. And I was sitting in these meetings and as I, learned more about Readiness OS and blocks to flow. And I'm like, we're preparing these really great documents for kids that aren't ready for what we're doing. And so what are we doing? Like, of course, we're going to be here again next year when it fails and they need more services or more minutes, or they need additional support, or they need now a behavior plan because they're dysregulated and they're not managing themselves. And it was like meeting after meeting after meeting. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, our kids aren't ready for what we're expecting them to do. Yes. And unfortunately, the system is set up that way.
Yes, we assume when we're making those documents, we assume they're going to be ready.
We're assuming ability and we're assuming readiness. Yep.
Yes. So when did you first realize something essential was missing, even though everything looked correct?
I mean, I had felt it for the last few years, probably most prevalently after COVID. So after the shutdown, and then we came back fairly soon, and we did pods, and we did a lot of things to have kids come a couple days a week and then be remote the other days and everything else. So our kids in our school district weren't gone. They were just gone from that initial March to June. And then they were eligible to come back in the following year. But it wasn't full time. And, post COVID, our kids are just different. They're so different than they were pre-COVID. Although kids were starting to show some of these signs of dysregulation and lack of attention skills and inability to regulate and sustain attention to task. And part of that is probably devices, right? And so it really became prevalent, post-COVID, so 21, 22. And so my last 3 years, I was still requiring, we still required to meet compliance and regulations and do all of those things. But the plans that had historically worked because kids were ready, kids aren't ready. And so they're being instructed when they are feeling unsafe, or they're dysregulated, or they're laying on the floor or crawling under a table. And here we are like, no, we have to get that math. And it just seems like, more and more these last few years, we're spinning our wheels and not really making an impact on kids' lives.
Yes. Yes. And what was the hardest part about staying silent in those moments?
So I didn't always stay silent, and that would tend to get me in trouble because the system is set up the way the system is presently set up. And so, I mean, there were times when, I was like, I feel like we need to look at this a little bit differently. But, the school district had their plans and their goals, and everybody had to be working towards them. And there just wasn't really time in my teachers' days to be able to meet the needs where the kids were at, to take care of that more social, emotional, or nervous system or biological need in order to get them learning ready. And so it was really hard. And so when I became first eligible, it was never my intention to retire at first eligibility for retirement. And then I was just like, I got to go. Like, I can't stay in this system. It's not healthy. It's not healthy for me. It's not healthy for the kids. We're doing a disservice to so many kids because the system is currently built the way it is. The school district, the board has their plans. They follow the state's plans. The state follows the federal government's plans. And it's like, but what about the kids?
Yes. And then when it comes to implementation for the teachers too, right?
Yeah.
It falls apart.
It does.
Yes. And then at home, it falls apart for parents.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a cycle, isn't it? It's a loop that we keep playing.
It can be.
You got to exit. You exit it, but we got to exit. All of us has to exit, right?
Yeah.
We got to find a solution for this. So at what point did you know you couldn't unsee what you were seeing?
Yeah. So, it was probably, when I had to start up the new school year because I didn't have enough time to retire. So like the September of 2024. And I was like, I was struggling to continue to enforce compliance and regulation and all of these things that, my staff had to do, and reading IEPs and saying, you're not, it's not robust enough, that the child needs to be working at a higher level. And I just didn't want to do it. And so it was tough. That last 6 months was really tough for me because I was ready to be doing something else. Like, I knew at that point, there's a better way, there's a different way. And this system, my public school system, and any public school system, isn't ready, and it's not going to let it happen the way it could happen to really show transformational growth. And so, I continued to work, and I continued to do everything that I had to do, and all of the expectations. But it was really hard because, here's little Johnny, who every day is in crisis, and we're not meeting his needs. We just there's not enough people trained to meet Johnny's needs when he is completely dysregulated and rolling on the floor.
Yes. Yes. So let's go look at effort and readiness, because we always get, we talk about effort. Everyone talks about effort, right? You need to put more effort. It's like trying harder.
Yeah.
Similar to that phrase. I mean, the child needs to put more effort, or parents need to put more effort, or teacher needs to put more effort, right? So you said effort was never the missing piece. What did you see? What did you see that proved that?
Everybody working really hard, like putting, my teachers my teachers working extra hours, staying late, and doing all of the things, and writing these really great IEPs, and really, going into classrooms and seeing how hard they were working to make those, the growth in the children. And it's not like I can't give them one more thing to do. There's too many things. They're already working at capacity. It's not effort. Effort's not the problem.
Yes. So time is filled with lots of effort, but still the results are not showing.
They weren't showing. Yeah.
No, it's frustrating. It's
Yeah.
insanity to do something that's not working.
Same thing over and over again and expect different results. Yep.
Yes, absolutely. So why do caring, hardworking adults still create plans children can live inside?
Well, because there's expectations, and there's guidelines within each school district and each grade level, and these are the things that we need to be doing. And there's not a lot of flexibility to say, well, okay, but Johnny only has a 5-minute attention span, and if pushed too far, he's going to fall apart. Like, there's not enough space there in the teacher's day, in the IEP space, the way things are structured. There's just not enough space to do what needs to be done to get Johnny ready. So,
and not all diagnoses, like for example, autism, ADHD, each of those gets their different way of IEP written out too, right? For example, like some of them are not full coverage, right? Like you can't get coverage at all for some of them, right? Like learning differences, learning disabilities and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. I mean, as much as the law requires that students be grouped with similar needs, there are sometimes kids with very varying needs placed in a space, whether it's an inclusion or even in a self-contained classroom, where you've got some kids with behaviors and some kids that are nonverbal. And it's just kind of, as much as we did our best to ensure that everyone was in the right place, unfortunately, there aren't enough places because everybody's so individualized. And so you try to individualize within that space, while, still taking Johnny or whoever, who's a 4th grader, and making sure he has access to 4th grade curriculum. But, oh, by the way, his math is on a 1st grade level. So you still have to be meet him where he's at, but still make sure he's learning the 4th grade curriculum. It's insanity.
Yeah. And if there's not enough support, EAs or support workers, right? So then it's not just because you have IEP, it doesn't always mean you're going to have support either, right?
That's correct. That staffing is a challenge post-COVID. It absolutely is a challenge, whether it's the paraprofessionals, whether it's even having enough certified teachers. Sometimes, you lose a teacher, or you start the year without a teacher and it's a substitute. And so then, there sometimes substitutes are certified teachers and sometimes they're not. And so there is usually anymore presently, like I'll look at the job listings, and many districts are looking for staff. They're looking for staff. They're looking for teachers. And so, right, to the extent a school district can, they're obligated to meet a student's minutes and needs and everything else. But if there aren't bodies to fill that, then it doesn't happen.
So you've been inside the classroom seeing this, all these plans put to work, but then falling apart. So how do we see it in the child? Like, what are some of the stuff that we see in the classroom? Because sometimes not everyone knows about this, right? Because they're not there to witness this, right? Sure. So tell us a little bit about their overwhelm and what do they show?
Yeah, I mean, and kids who are overwhelmed can look very, very different, right? I mean, a lot of times, if you take a look at their nervous system and see, many times we have kids who have been through trauma. We have kids who function from a yellow or a red light on a traffic light, where they're in fight or flight survival mode. And your brain goes offline when you're in fight or flight. And so you're not able to learn, you're not able to retain, you're not able to keep things into memory and long-term memory when your body system is in fight or flight. Or even freeze, right? So some kids shut down. The hoodie goes over his head. He puts his head down. So you could see outward behaviors, or you could see retreating withdrawal behaviors.
Yes.
And many times it's an overwhelmed system. It's an
Yes.
overwhelmed system who is just not ready
Yes.
to learn.
And then at that point, all the notes and all the planning, there's nothing you can do with it.
Right. Right.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. And our school district had brought mindfulness into the classroom. And, there are many, many teachers in classrooms who do use it. Many times they use it after the lunch recess break when kids come back from lunch and recess really amped, like really high.
Yeah.
But like within a day, there are so many children who become dysregulated in the middle of math class.
Yes.
And you can't take a whole, you can't stop your math lesson necessarily to meet everybody's needs with that. Sometimes teachers will, especially at the primary grades, they'll do a brain break where they'll get up and do some movement or do some breathing. But there's so many students in so many spaces that have so many needs. It's virtually impossible to be able to run a classroom anymore.
Yeah, it's diverse. So many diverse. Yeah. So so there's a guilt though, right? As a teacher, isn't there a guilt? Every teacher feels in their heart that I have this curriculum to teach. I can't take so much time to regulate themselves.
Right.
Regulate them.
Absolutely.
I gotta keep going. Let's just push through.
And there are those teachers that'll be like, to heck with the curriculum. I've got to meet my kids' needs where they're at. But then they get in trouble from their administration.
Yes.
And so you're kind of, the teachers who recognize that there's something more that's needed and try to meet that more are sometimes, punished or talked to because of that.
Yeah. And then when it comes to observation days, or when it comes to collecting the data, there might be not enough data for them to share, then you're going to get in trouble anyway, right? At some point, you're going to be almost like being caught, but you're not getting caught because you have to do what you have to do to get these guys ready, the kids ready, right?
Yes, 100%. We had a few really challenging kids at the junior high school my last year and a half, and it was really interesting because there were some afternoons when I would just take my laptop and I would put myself in the conference room at the junior high. And when those kids got dysregulated, I was like, send them to me. And they would come down and I would do a little activity. I would bring them down and get them, re-regulated. And then they could sit and do their work with me in that space. And, but there aren't enough spaces for all of the kids that need that. And that wasn't really part of my job. So like, I need to be showing that I'm doing my job and not taking time to meet the kids' needs, even though I oversaw the whole program.
Yes. Yeah. Why do you think that's not something like administrators think you're being proactive about it? Why doesn't they recognize the teachers being proactive? Why is it more looked down and maybe, as you said, it's like almost like a punishment for doing
right? And I think it depends on a lot. It depends on the administrator's philosophy, and there are administrators who are very like disciplinary based, and it's like they're in your classroom. You need to manage that classroom. You need to keep them in the class. You need to this, that, and the other thing, and then there are some that believe that the social emotional needs of students are important.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's not enough bodies to meet the social emotional needs of all of the kids that are struggling.
Yeah. And I think they're also afraid that they might lose, I don't want to say control, but structure or something. Like if one class starts doing that, then the next class start doing they're afraid as leaders to see diverse structures. We just gonna have one structure, like everybody stays the same.
Everybody does the same thing. And
it can be controlled easily, right? It can be controlled easily. I think there's a fear of that. So where did you confuse compliance with readiness? Did you ever do that? I mean,
I don't know that I confused it, but I think there was a time in my career, because I was a school administrator for 22 years. Mm-hmm. I think that there was a time when I was like, we're compliant. Like we went for 100% compliance. And when we got there, it was like, yes, celebrate. We're doing it. I'm doing the right thing. But that excluded whether kids were actually making a lot of growth or not, right?
Yeah.
It was like, yep, if state ed came in, we would pass with flying colors. But has Tom gone from, this point A to point B? I chose somebody besides Johnny. Did he go from point A to point B, or is he still at point A because we're not meeting his needs? Yeah. And so I don't know that I confused them, but I don't know that I was paying much attention to their readiness and the conditions around which kids can learn best.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's not even they went from point A to point B. They might have even gone worse because we're not paying attention to what's happening at the moment. It can even go past something that we could have solved earlier, right?
Earlier, yeah. And it becomes a bigger problem because we didn't meet those early needs.
So what belief about support did you have to let go or dismantle?
Yeah, so I mean, I had to let go of a few things, right? Like I had to let go of the fact that maybe I wasn't doing a great job just because we followed regulations and we were compliant. Maybe be doing a good job for this department and for the students within this department, the students who had IEPs. Maybe I needed to be seeing more individualized needs, right? And being able to say, well, how are we going to meet these needs? And can we look at programming differently? And, and I did end up creating a couple of different programs that were structured a little bit differently than the typical classroom to meet some kids' needs. And it was successful for the right kids, not all kids. But yeah, I really kind of had to let go of the fact that it's not just about compliance and regulation as the administrator of this program. It's also about children learning, children's growth, and children's well-being.
And isn't there like you put something out, you test, if it's not working, can you not take it back and adjust? Is that not possible in these reports and this kind of programming when you did it?
It can be. It can be. But the powers that be above my head, my superintendent, the board of ed, everything comes down to money and staffing. And so, to be real creative and come up with some of these programs would have required additional staffing, and that just wasn't going to happen.
Yes. So there's a resource shortage when it comes to any kind of changes after producing, and that's all we got, right?
Right. Yeah.
Let's work with it. And then working with it costs so much pain for the teachers, right? That's why a lot of teachers are getting burned out.
Yes, absolutely. There was a pretty high burnout rate. We had a lot of things going on in my district, but many of my teachers, would reach out to me and be like, I've done everything I can think of to do to help this student. It's not working. Help me help them. Yes. Like think outside the box, come up with something, because it's just, this kid is just not going to make it.
Yes. Was there some grief for you when you realizing all of this is happening around you?
There was some guilt. I mean, I definitely had guilt, right? Because they made it very clear from the get-go when I first started in that job, back in January of 2010, when I started in that job, they made it very clear that compliance was a problem, that the district was in big trouble with the state because of compliance and doing things the right way. And so my job was always mired in compliance regulations, being able to defend if you had an audit. And so I got really, really good at that. And sometimes it was to the detriment of me paying enough attention to what the kids needed. And there was so much guilt when I realized that, and there was some negative self-talk, and then I had to work on myself about that. And, I did what I could do, and I did the best that I could do in the confines of the position and the system. But there was absolute guilt.
Yeah. No grief.
When there's a better way. Yeah. I mean, I guess it could be grief. When there's a better way, then you want to do the better way. And when the system fights against you, it's a challenge.
Yes, absolutely. So why does urgency dominate these meetings? The ones that you
Usually because there's a time, there's usually another meeting scheduled after this meeting. So you've
Oh,
got a certain amount of time in there. And you have to get through everything. Like all the people have to talk, all of the services, and they have to, talk about the progress that they're making. And then they have to talk about, what the goals are going to be and what services they're going to need. And so it's already set up in for everybody to be in a heightened state.
mm,
Right? Because there is a time factor.
yes.
And honestly, if we gave every meeting an hour and a half, we would not be able to get through all the meetings in the year.
Yes. Yes.
So
how many students did you support in this school that you were at?
I had, and so in the whole school district, I want to say there was about between 340 and 400 special ed students, pre-K through 12.
Wow. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what happened in the room when you slow it down?
Some people got uncomfortable when, towards the end there, when I knew I was close to retirement, I did start asking some of these readiness questions and these regulation questions and nervous system questions. And it threw people off. Like my staff didn't know, like, they were like, wait, what? Like, what? Yeah, you don't ask that. What? But it led to some really great conversations. And it also opened parents' eyes a little bit, right? Because a lot of times parents aren't aware of their child's nervous system and their own nervous system.
Yes. Yes. And that's why I loved last time I was speaking to you, one of the things that you help so much with parents is just this knowledge, right? You have so much of it because you sat through so many of these meetings. One of the ways Coach Kim can help parents is just understanding it, because sometimes even IEPs, I looked at them when I was a EA. When I started off, I was an EA. I looked at them sometimes, reading them. It's not easy document to read and understand. There's a lot.
There is a lot there, and when you receive, and not every state has them the same way. And so, there are federal guidelines, but then each state has their own guidelines and has their own document. And so they can be really difficult. And that is one of the things I do. I do educational consulting for parents who are struggling to navigate the special ed process in their district with their child. And so I had one client that the child had been suspended numerous times, and they weren't doing what they needed to do to support the child. And I went in and did a file review, and I just did 2 years. He was a high school student, and I just looked at 2 years, and there were 21 instances of non-compliance. So when you're that out of compliance, there's no way you're meeting the child's needs. And what that does for parents is that puts them in a position. They had an attorney, and that I gave a report to the attorney. So now the attorney and the parents are going to the school district to ask for different services for their child. And they're in a stronger position because the school district did things wrong.
Yes. Yes.
And so,
parents who are watching us right now can relate, when you get those documents, how hard it is for you to even understand. And then after you read through it, it's like those terms and condition papers, right? Sometimes you read through them and then you're like, what did I just read? Like, it almost like it's not regular English. You have to translate it.
Yes, because there is a lot of educational jargon that ends up getting put in these documents because the adults, the educators all know what it means, and that the parent gets it and they're like, I have no idea what this is even saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's really important for parents to learn and have somebody to help them through this process, because that's why many parents, after getting these diagnoses and after getting the IEP, they're like, now what do I do with it?
Right.
It's
Right.
really confusing. Even then it's confusing. There's some answers. There's some answers. There's some help he provided here, but I'm not sure what to do next. So I'm so glad that you're helping with that for parents. It's so important. So what changes when you say this child is not ready for this level of expectation? When you were in that room and you said that, what happened? What changes?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of opened up the conversation to how are we going to get that child ready? And so, and generally speaking, when I had those last few CSE meetings, my staff could tell me what the child's triggers were, when the child shut down or when the child, they were able to tell me that, but there was no plan in the IEP to address that piece of things.
Yes.
And so while we didn't technically put it in the IEP, having that conversation opened the staff's eyes to be like, all right, well, if Johnny is always breaking down during math class, is it math or is it the time of day? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's always typically the same time. And then if it's math, is it that he needs extra math or is it that he needs a break before the math? Like, is he already up here and now we need to do a movement break to bring Johnny down so he can tolerate the math?
Yeah. And also, does he hate math? Does he tell him,
Right.
I hate math and I'm never good at it? And basically, he's just being tortured through math and he's going to do some type of behavior to get out of it.
Yeah.
He doesn't like that.
Yeah. Quick side story. One of the little guys that I coach was not good at math. So when I did my discovery days and I was trying to do some different activities with him and stuff, it was like math was not his thing. And we work on math a lot when we're together. And we see each other 3 days a week, and there's always some math involved in everything that we do. And they recently did another diagnostic, the mid-year diagnostic, and he had gone up well over 100 points in math. And he told the teacher, well, I'm a math genius because I call him a math genius.
Nice. There you go.
And so this little boy who for 4 years in school, because he's a fourth grader, so kindergarten, first, second, third, really hadn't made much progress in math at all, is now making more than a year's growth of math progress because he thinks he's a math genius.
Yeah. Isn't that true though?
Yeah.
If we believe it,
yes,
we will do it. Right?
Yes.
It's the belief system that's so important. So thank you. I love it. Math genius. Love it.
I'm a math genius.
Love it. So why is readiness so rarely the starting point? How did we even miss this? Like, it so seems so obvious. I was talking to my other coach a couple of days ago too, and I'm like, we don't take off the plane unless the plane is fully checked and ready to go. We don't drive away a car unless all the tires and everything is all in alignment and everything is good to go, right? Everything that we actually ask something to do,
all of our stuff.
Yeah, like we always have a readiness, or we're checking it to make sure it's ready to go. Why is it that we never
don't do it for humans, right? I mean, I think it's an assumption, right? I think schools are designed around the assumption that children come to school ready to learn.
Yes.
And I think that post-COVID, schools have discovered that children are showing up to school not even close to ready to learn. But they're only addressing it like in pre-K and kindergarten, right? But there are kids in all grade levels that are not ready. For whatever reason, there's something going on with them. They have blocks in their system and maybe it's the environment they're coming from. If my dad was arrested last night and we were up most of the night because the police were in the house, I'm probably not going to be ready to take my social studies lesson.
No.
And so there's so much baggage and there's so many things that kids are coming into school with that prevent them from being learning ready. But I think that school systems and work and all of the systems we put humans in are designed with an assumption that all humans are ready.
Yeah.
Ready to work, ready to learn, ready to whatever.
Yeah. Perform, output. Look at me, the output, right? So I don't remember me being ready ever going to school because school was scary for me. I didn't, many of the years I didn't even speak proper English. So I muted myself so that I'm just going to mute myself. So therefore, let's get ready. It's almost like admitting yourself to a hospital or something. That's what it felt like, because you're no longer going to be yourself. When I enter those walls, I never myself anymore until I exit. I turn into somebody else I created, right? And then when I go into math, I just kind of escape the room. And I learned how to master looking busy like I'm doing work. Like when my
Mhm.
teacher, I'm like frantically writing, like whatever. It doesn't, because I want to look appear to him so busy. He doesn't say, "What are you doing? Like, do you need help?" Because I can't ask for help,
Right.
because then he'll know I know nothing. You see, like
Right.
we learn how to protect ourselves so much,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
Because we're not ready. What we're doing is we learn how to protect ourselves, and that's
Right. We
exactly
look
what.
around and it looks like everybody knows what they're doing. So we don't want to be like, I don't know what I'm doing.
No, no, not in front of everyone. I'm never going to say I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
So write whatever you need to. So I used to copy the book,
Oh,
the
good.
math book. I would copy the math book to look like I'm doing math work.
Mhm.
The questions will be copied neatly. Even the, every math book has those little stories they would start off with.
Yes. Yep.
And then they go into the
Copy
lessons. Everybody ignores them. So somebody asked me one time, they were doing some interview and they asked me, what was your favorite book you read? I said, math textbook. And they're like, why? Because I would always read those stories, because it was about who discovered it, how did they discover the concept that we were reading and learning. The
Right.
teacher
Okay.
would never go over
Cover
any
it.
of those. No, 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 no. They just go to the actual questions. The next
Right.
page, they would like go to page this and start from number one, do this and this and this, right? They would give us the numbers to
Mhm.
do. But
Right.
me, I'm stuck on the story.
Right.
I
You're
read the
like, I
story.
want to know about how it was invented.
Yeah, but I have to look busy. But it all started, I have to look busy.
Right.
So that's how I started reading it. And then I got interested. I'm like, okay, what's the next one going to tell me about? So I kind of was reading those books as my, reading book. And
Mhm.
then I got interested in math later. No, what I'm saying is we always find protection, right? Those are all protection. I was
Mhm.
protecting myself from everything. And I was good at it. I was mastering every one of them.
You were good at your protections? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, looking busy, not asking questions, daydreaming away from the classroom, all of them. I perfected it
Wow.
beautifully. So that's what all of our kids do when we're not ready. Not just me,
When
right?
they're not
Every one
ready.
of us do that, right? Every one of us do that. Like even as adults, why do we procrastinate?
Right.
Because we might not be ready to do that,
Yeah.
right? And
Right.
why do we
So we
become
scroll our
perfectionists?
phones instead. Right.
Yeah. Why are we perfectionists? Why do we go after perfectionism? Because
Yeah.
I'm not ready. I don't know if this is the right idea. I'm not sure if I want to put this out into the world. I might get it wrong. So I'm just going to procrastinate or just going to make it perfect. And I'll keep thinking about it. So the readiness kind of continues into future life
Sure.
after
No,
graduating from school, right?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, we had talked about this before. Obviously, our listeners don't know this, but when I first retired, I really struggled with the business part of my life because for 30 years I had a boss that told me what to do and when it was due and everything else. And now it was completely up to me. And when I first retired, I was not ready. I was not ready. And now I'm like, the best part of my life, the part of my life that I run best is my business. And
You like your
it's
boss?
everything else
Do
that,
you like
yeah.
your boss now? Do you like your boss?
Yeah, I love my boss. Actually, my bosses have 4 legs. My bosses are my dogs and cats.
Yeah. But you're your own boss. So, I think one of our other coach always says, I love my boss. She always says that because she is her boss. So she
Right.
says, I love
Yeah.
my boss. 'Cause my boss lets me do whatever I want whenever I want
Yeah.
it.
There you go. Yeah.
So that's awesome. Awesome. So what gave you the courage to leave your administrative role?
Yeah. I mean, I was not in a position to be able to, like, New York State is set up so that when you are in the public system, it is a significant detriment to you to retire prior to having 30 years and being 55 years old. And so I would not have been financially in a state to be able to do what I need to do. And for those of you that don't know, I have a chronically ill daughter, and much of my free money may go to treatments that insurance refuses to cover. And so I wasn't in a financial position to do that. So when I said earlier, when I was first eligible, I was 55 in May, and I became first eligible in January. That was my 30-year mark, was that January date. And I had initially planned on continuing to work because it's good money. And I love working with kids and teachers and everything else. And then it just got so bad that I was like, I have to go. Like, I have to go. And so I literally went on my basically at my first eligibility date. And then I offered to stay and work part-time for them until the new person was able to start. But I just had to go. I couldn't do it anymore. It was taxing my mental health. And I was just like, this isn't the place for me anymore.
Yes. Yes. And you had the business started.
I had my business.
Yeah. As
And so I knew I had something I was gonna count on. So yeah.
Yes. Yes. You had something built ready for you. So you were able to, now you're able to fulfill that and live that legacy, right? Because you wanted to help parents and students in that way. So you're doing it. So I'm excited for that.
Yes. After 22 years of being the person on the other side of the table, now I'm on the same side as the parents and have more knowledge than most of the people sitting around the table.
Yes, love it, love it. So, when it comes to readiness, this is the thing, because we are all trained by the same system, right? Our parents are, even us, we came from the same education system, right? So when it comes to it, there's a resistance, like we all hear from parents, like, what do you mean you're going to take time to get them ready? This is a biological system. This is a living system. It is constantly being bombarded by so many variables, so many things are happening to us. We don't know what is being blocked. And if it's blocked, then the system is going to get suppressed and there's no expression. So we need to help them, right? If we leave it too long, it can even go dip into depression. So we need to help. But when it comes to it, because we're so after the marks than the grades, when you say, let's focus on the readiness, let's just wait for the marks and the grades to become a byproduct, sometimes there's a resistance. Parents go, no, we need to get the marks going. Right. Because not just them, a lot of us feel that way because we can't delay performance, right? Because that's what we're here for.
The way school is run is grades and performance, right?
So I got to perform. So if you delay performance, what is the point of your coaching, right? So, but take us back. What is the point of that coaching? Help them understand.
Yeah. So, I mean, the point of the coaching is to be able to get the blocks cleared and get the child's brain so that it's spending more time in the prefrontal cortex where the executive functioning and where the learning is going to happen. And the time that you take to clear those blocks, they'll start learning at a faster pace once they're ready to learn. And so you can try to put information in the kids and you can tutor a kid on a math concept and they may pass, they may get the homework done and they may pass the quiz, but it's not going to be there next year because it's not going into long-term memory because their brain isn't ready. They're fighting all of these things. Their nervous system is out of state. Their energy levels might be wrong. They may be draining instead of charging. So it's key. And you'll learn faster and remember more when you're ready.
Yes, absolutely. So it's like I go back to these analogies, right? Like it's like I want to take off the plane. I'm like, I know it's not quite ready to take off, but I'll just take off anyway because I got to go. I got to go fly. Like we don't do that, right? We take the time to make sure.
No, right. We're not going to fly the plane if it needs to be de-iced. We're going to de-ice the plane first, so it's ready. Yeah.
So we got to think of it like that. We're just like we're a living system. So if we want to go and we want to maintain that going speed, we got to make sure everything is ready for that. We got to have the resources ready, and it has to be there to give us that push. And so that's what I always think about it. Like, can you imagine we take up the plane and then we fix it up there because now we don't know what's wrong up there. So that's how I want parents to picture this. If you're thinking like caught up in this, I need to make sure my child gets passing grade, grades. It can come fast, like you said. The speed picks up. They can go faster next year, but right now they're stuck. They're blocked. What's the point of just pushing more content into them when we don't even know why they're blocked and why they're not working at their capacity, right? So it's so important to remember that. But yeah, we all been through the same system, so I understand where they come from, right? I'm very compassionate about that. It's not like,
Mhm.
we don't understand. We really understand what parents think, but you have to think of it as, why would I push someone when they're blocked?
Right.
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 So for parents watching, how can they tell if the child is overloaded before the school does? How can they tell that they're blocked or overloaded or overwhelmed?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to depend on the child, right? But there are some signs: irritability, frustration, low frustration tolerance, where they're snapping really quickly, avoidance. They're trying to avoid things that they used to enjoy. Sometimes it's outward behavior. Sometimes it's withdrawal, refusal behaviors. All of a sudden they're struggling to get up to go to school in the morning, when before they were always able to get up. That's a big one. School avoidance is a really big one. But even in your day-to-day interactions, that irritability, that low frustration tolerance, that distractibility, and sometimes kids use devices, right? When they're feeling really overwhelmed, they'll use their device to make themselves grounded. And that's a whole problem, right? Because too much device is a whole other issue. But that may be the thing that grounds them right now. But if they're using their device even more than they typically do, those are some signs that they're feeling overwhelmed. And kids may not know that they're feeling overwhelmed. They're in this system where everybody's like, do it, let's go, let's get it done. Come on, you've got this due today and tomorrow, and Friday's the quiz, and And the kids may not even realize that they're not in a space to be able to manage that.
No. And also when kids, you're like telling your child repeatedly, try harder, put more effort, don't be lazy. Like if you start mentioning any of those things,
Right.
we're going into the territory of them that they're shutting down, they're blocked. We're just using repeated language like that. That's going to further them into getting more blocked, because the more time I hear from my dad or my mom that, why can't you try harder, when I'm blocked already, I'm at a state where I'm losing it inside of me. All I need to hear is my mom or dad saying, why can't you try harder? You never try anything harder. And why are you not like other people? Like, look at that kid doing really well. Those persons, right?
Those things happen. We know parents, sometimes we do that.
Like look at your sister. She's like always on top of everything. Why can't you be like that? All of those things, if you're doing it, then we know the readiness is not there. That's why you're doing it. If the readiness was there, you would never say any of those things.
You wouldn't have to say it.
Right. So that is another sign you can watch out for. How many of those are you saying in your family or family with your kids, right? When you're, even in the morning, like how many times do you have to remind things to be done? And if it's constantly, if you are becoming their nervous system or they're nagging them to do stuff, like you're giving them message, like they're not independently doing, you're doing it, they're doing it because you tell them to do, that's also another sign, right? That they're getting blocked more and more and more.
When you have to tell your child 17 times to do something, there's probably something standing in the way.
Yes. And that's why we get frustrated as parents, right?
We do.
That's too much. So what about for educators watching this episode? How do we recognize when we are building outcomes without conditions? How can they recognize they're building?
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll notice in the class when they have more and more kids that are out of sorts, and they're spending more time in the correction mode than in the positive feedback mode, right? That's more and more kids. And Googling nervous system science and or getting in touch with one of the coaches here. There's so many short things that can be done whole class that will bring most kids back into readiness state.
Yes.
And then you'll have your few outliers that need, more individualized work. And I think teachers get it after recess, right? Think if your day is going like it when the kids are coming back from recess and they're all like this, if that's happening more and more in your classroom, you've got a readiness problem. And, it really is to your benefit to spend some time on the readiness, because you'll get more learning done after.
Yes. And then now with the electronics, not to blame anybody, we are all using it. We all have a lot of the time, a phone with us, most of us, right? And most children do as well these days. I don't know how old some parents are giving it to them. My kids are older now, so I don't know what the age, right?
Yeah.
I didn't give it until he was 12 or some 12. Yeah, he was 12 when he got his phone. But I think it's too early. I would believe now it's way too early. But I had to leave him, so I need to give him, like, that's how we get an excuse of leaving him, right? I have to go to work and you got to be alone, so I'm going to give you a phone. That's the starting of it.
Right. Well, my daughter was traveling with the wrestling team, and they didn't always get back at this. She was the manager, and they didn't always get back at the same time. And a lot of times the school was locked up and they couldn't call. And so she couldn't call home, and if they got back early. And so that's initially why we got the phone, was so that she would be able to call and say, the bus is almost back, come and get me. So she didn't have to wait. Because she was the only girl. She was in 6th grade, 7th grade. So, so and it was way too early. She did not have the skill set to manage that and manage all of this, the negative things that happen on social media.
We buy these for our kids for safety, and then it ended up becoming the weapon.
They become the unsafe thing. Yeah.
Like they have all the things that could go wrong for them inside of it, and we give it to them as the safety tool for us, because we have to get them, or we have to make sure they're okay at home, or they need this. So it is hard now. And my son is so older now, though, so it doesn't matter. But nowadays, if I had a little kid, it's even worse than when I had him small, like, because the things have lots going on, right?
Yes, there's a lot more going on than when my kids were little. Yep.
Yeah. So it has changed so much. So as a teacher, one of the ways of readiness is, if you're constantly, constantly fixing behavior after behavior, and you're calling it all the time behavior, that's a sign, right? Inside the classroom, like, it cannot be that many behaviors happening all the time. And if you're just doing that and fighting to put curriculum in between behavior episodes,
right,
that's not working.
Right. And you may as well spend that time on readiness and on some of these strategies and teaching the kids regulation skills, because you're spending that time on negative behaviors. You may as well be spending it on positive.
Yeah. And just putting it down and say, I think we're not ready to learn. I mean, even telling the kids, putting everything down and sitting down and saying, you know what? I don't think we're ready to learn. We're not going to start learning. Because we're not in the state to learn. And I mean, teaching them all of that is so important too, right? I mean, teaching, like, right?
I'm in my 50s and I'm like, oh, I wasn't ready.
So, if somebody had told me I'm not ready, I would have been curious, at that age. Yeah. Instead of going, your behavior is bad, you're not doing this or that. Instead of that, you're not in the state to learn. I would have been, what does that mean? What is the state to learn? What is that? How do I get to the state to learn? Because curiosity brings so much more pleasant experience than just saying you have such a poor bad behavior or attitude. Right. And attitude comes out a lot of times too, right? So it's not easy. But you can always stop, though. Like you said, stop and do the things that are necessary for learning. If it's not, then don't push the content. I know you might say, I might get in trouble if I don't push the content, but it's not working. If it is, then
you're not getting it anyway.
So you're not getting it anyway. Why fight something is not happening?
Right.
That's where teachers have to look at it more and more and more. If someone is still inside the system and feeling the same, the chest tightening that you described in your article, what would you tell them?
I mean, the first thing I would say is take some breaths. Take some breaths where your exhale is longer than your inhale. Recognize some really quick things that you can do to reset your vagus nerve. If you get a chance, go to the bathroom, put some cold water on your wrists, do something to reset yourself, because our kids borrow our nervous system states. And so if we're feeling burned out and frustrated and angry at administration and really annoyed that nobody covered your class because you needed to go to the bathroom, and if you're feeling all of those things, the kids are going to feel that as well. And some of them will actually absorb it. And so you really have to be aware of your own nervous system state and really do check-ins throughout the day. And then some quick calming tools, some quick tool that's unique to you, because it's different for every person, to be able to just implement in that moment to bring you back to readiness, bring you back to calm state.
Even when we started this chat with Kim, when we both came in with shoulders up like this, because we've been working, we've been doing things. But then when we started talking about the now and being here, right, and present, and we started doing those breathing for 3 times, didn't we get into another state? Like, it's completely changed our conversation, right? We're no longer uptight about, I have to have a conversation with Kim now. It's more like, okay, we're just going to have a conversation.
So do it. We're here. It's now. We're doing it.
So breathing is such a gift we all have 24/7, but we take it so for granted, don't we? Yeah. So the breathing is amazing. Anytime, every time. Just do that. Yeah, I love it. So what would education?
Well, I just want to say one more thing. I actually put this on my Facebook page the other day, that we need to practice our regulation tools when we're calm, so that when we start to get in a dysregulated state, our body knows what to do before our brain.
I agree. Yeah. And we have to teach that to kids too.
Yes.
So that they understand that I need to return to this, because, because they know what it feels to be in the calm state.
Mm-hmm.
Without being triggered and getting to there, right? Because we only do it when we are triggered. That means I only have to do it then. But if I'm always in a state of calm, I want to return to that. And then this doesn't feel good. When I'm triggered, I don't feel good. I want to return to that. That's what flow is, right? That's flow is addiction. For me, flow has become very addiction, because it doesn't feel right. When I'm not in flow, I feel not right. So I want to get back to there as quickly as possible. So I go back to my techniques to get me there again, right? So the same way, breathing, do it when you're calm. So it becomes your natural state. And then if you're ever off, you need to do it again. So what would education look like if readiness was non-negotiable?
Oh my, I don't even know. I'd love to fantasize about it, though. Wouldn't that be lovely? And it's tricky, right? Because when I do coaching with my people, I'm one-on-one. And so you get that one-on-one attention and everything else. But the changes that I've seen in some of the people that I've coached, it's transformational. It's amazing. My little guy, my 9-year-old, who was 8 when I started with him, he is ADHD, and he's a busy guy. And I see him after school. And so, there are times when, mom's like, good luck, he's in a mood. And we can regulate. And if I need to, I can say, doesn't look like we're ready. What do we need to do? And then he'll kind of settle himself down, and he'll take a breath, and then he'll be able to get through the lesson. So, it works. And if we were able to do that on a class-wide, school-wide basis, where we could get kids to recognize when they're not learning ready and when they're out of state, to get them back to state, amazing things would happen.
Absolutely. So what is one sentence you want every parent to remember?
Oh gosh, one sentence. I don't even know.
Readiness first.
Readiness first. Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's just it, right? Like, do a state check. Do a state check. If you're having a rough time, if your child's having a rough time, do a state check. Where are you in terms of your nervous system? And then take steps to bring yourself back to calm.
Yes. What would be one sentence you would tell every educator to remember?
Probably the same thing, because sometimes kids are having misbehaviors because they're in a bad state, right?
Yes.
So do a state check. Do a state check for yourself, do a state check for your kids, and take that pause if you need it.
Awesome. Thank you. And what does stepping into the Readiness OS era truly mean to you?
Oh gosh, I'm so excited about the possibilities and the transformations that I've already seen, in my one-on-one coaching and my parenting group that I run. It really, when you're ready and you're in a state to learn or to lead, when my parents in my parenting group get themselves into a state to be able to lead, things go so much better with their kids. They're more compliant. They meet expectations. It's just, readiness is the key to everything.
Yes. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. And then again, if you haven't gotten this magazine, there's a link below. Make sure to click that and put in the word flow, all capital, and you'll be able to access Coach Kim's article along with all the other articles as well. And we're going to give it to you for free. So it's all available to you, and you can read about all the stories that she just shared. Again, if you have a child or an IEP, as you heard from her, she's got the expertise to help you on that. So don't sit with it by yourself, because I remember reading them and going, I need somebody to translate this. What am I doing with it? Because the language is just different. And I was at that time EA, and I had to go in and read those to make sure that I had every information about the child before I went and worked with them for the day.
Sure.
Right. So I had to read it first. So yes. So thank you so much, Kim. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
Again, yeah. Again, Readiness OS Era is way better than trying harder, because when we're ready, we don't need to try harder. We just flow.
do it.
We just do it. No need to try harder. Thank you so much.
Thank you.